Missouri, Alabama, a huge matchup this weekend. Is it going to be more of the same? Does the dominant SEC team, well, do they hold serve, or does Missouri pull the upset? Let's talk about it with Jimmy Stein and Luke Robinson on this special crossover edition of Locked On Bama and Locked On Mizzou.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Oh, hey, all you true sons and daughters. I'm John Miller from Locked On Mizzou. And, of course, this is Jimmy Stein and Luke Robinson of Locked On Bama. We got a little three-way match for you today. Not just a crossover, but some are calling it a Tim Hardaway-esque killer crossover. That's what I'm going with today here on Locked On Bama and Locked On Mizzou. We got predictions. We're going to talk about if Mizzou is for real. Can Alabama tackle Ahmad Hardy? Just a ton to get to in what promises to be a really interesting matchup, in my humble opinion. Before we get started, though, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. Yes, coming to Missouri December 1st. That's the big news there. But you know what, guys, let's talk about this football game. And all week, my listeners know this has been kind of my premise. I think if Missouri can make Alabama's offense one-dimensional, basically if they can stop the run, I think Missouri's got a great shot to win this game. What do you think of that premise?
I'll go first. I don't think you're correct at all.
Okay.
I think if you want to try and make us one-dimensional, you better try and make us run, because our best players are our wide receivers and our quarterback. I mean, I love Jam Miller. I do, and I've said he's the heart and soul of this team. I'm pleasantly surprised how much he means to this team. Pleasantly. That said, he is not Najee Harris or TJ Yeldon or Derrick Henry or Trent Richardson or Mark Ingram or Eddie Lacy or any of the litany of awesome running backs Alabama's had. I'd go so far as to say he's maybe maybe a poor man's Brian Robinson. I mean, he may be Brian Robinson level, and I think Jam Miller can play in the pros for sure, and Brian Robinson is doing that very well. But I don't think the running game is Alabama's strength. I mean, I think all the stats back that up.
Sure.
And that's why, ultimately, spoiler alert, I'll pick Alabama to win this game, because I think Missouri's weakness is probably the secondary and Alabama's strength is the passing game. And Ty Simpson's playing as well as any quarterback in the country. And when you look at Alabama, I mean, I don't know that there are many duos or trios as good as Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams, and Isaiah Horton.
So I'll just say this. I love the pushback and disagreement immediately. We're off to a great start. But the reason I say that is because I'm kind of assuming this is more respect to Ryan Williams and Ty Simpson. I assume that Bama is going to be able to pass the ball fairly effectively against Missouri. The reason why I say they need to make them one-dimensional is because then that'll get Bama into some 3rd and 8s, some 3rd and 10s. And I've seen what Alabama looks like when they're one-dimensional. We saw that week 1 in Tallahassee, and it didn't look that great. So my thing is Missouri's defense, its run defense has been such a strength so far. I think if they can keep that up, that's why I think making Bama one-dimensional, that's where I'm thinking there. And what I wasn't saying, I'm not saying that Missouri needs to totally commit to the run. I think they have enough, especially with Josiah Trotter, that front 6, that front 7. I think they have enough that they can play that defense without committing to it. But, Jimmy, what are your feelings on this whole kerfuffle that Luke and I just got into?
Just how wrong is John?
Just how stupid am I? Let me know, Jimmy.
Well, you got to take away something. You can't just let Alabama do what they want. Obviously, you got to, one thing that I think is really interesting, you just kind of halfway mentioned in what you just said, John, about the three. Missouri's defense and Alabama's defense are extremely similar because it comes from the same tree. Corey Batoon has spent a lot of time with Kane Womack, and the defenses look similar. This is kind of what you practice against, and I think that's interesting. It's sort of like, hey, this is what Alabama's offense goes against every day. This is what Missouri's offense goes against every day. The look of the alignments and the personnel packages are very similar. But in terms of how Alabama plans to attack Missouri, Luke's right in the sense that Ty Simpson and the wide receivers are the strength of the offense. If that's not working for Alabama, Alabama's in trouble, because I don't think Alabama's got a run game yet, or if they will at all in 2025, that you can beat a quality SEC opponent with the run game. The run game has to be complementary to what they're doing in the pass game, because that's where the strength is. It's Ty Simpson's arm. It's that deep wide receiver core. I do think Missouri's strength is against the run with Trotter in the middle. I think that that's one of the better run defenses in this league. And I'll be surprised if Jam Miller has a second consecutive 100-yard game. I'll be surprised. I'll also be surprised if Ty Simpson doesn't have a nice day against Missouri. And the question will it be enough? But it really is, as much as these teams are similar on defense, John, they're different on offense. They do it two different ways. Alabama, it's going to be through the air. Missouri, it's going to be first and foremost on the ground.
Yeah, speaking of through the air, Ty Simpson, a guy, coming into this season, I think most of us were kind of wondering, who is this guy? He's been around for a while, has never really gotten the opportunity. I mean, he's exceeded all of my expectations for sure. I think he's been really good. I think everybody agrees with that. Well, what has it been about Ty Simpson that's made him such a good player so far for Bama?
I'm going to say patience, because what he did was he bided his time. He Mac Jones'd this thing. He waited around. He had some guys that were in front of him, and he tried his best to learn. He unfortunately was a part of the South Florida game, which is weird because he probably played the best of all the quarterbacks that played that day for Alabama. Yet people all summer long, I had people saying, Ty Simpson's not going to be the man because I saw that South Florida game. And I'm like, yeah, but we started the guy who was actually a lacrosse player, right? And he went back to Notre Dame, right? So Ty Simpson had this stigma about him for whatever reason. Now, Jimmy and I all summer said, Ty's going to be the guy. We loved Keelan Russell. We love Keelan Russell. Don't get me wrong. He's a true freshman that we adore. And Austin Mack is also a good quarterback, we think. But everything just pointed to Ty Simpson. Then in that first game, and it was not Ty Simpson's fault for the 10,000th time. It was not Ty Simpson's fault at all that Alabama was dominated by Florida State. It was a lot of other issues all over the team. And again, Ty Simpson was catching the flack because the quarterbacks always do. And that just comes with the territory, especially quarterback at Alabama. But give Ty Simpson a lot of credit, because the next game he comes back and he's perfect. He's 17 of 17. He's throwing darts. Then he plays against Wisconsin, throwing darts again, looking fantastic. I think at one point he was like 42 of his last 46 passes or something, 41 of 46 maybe, something ridiculous. He finally throws a pick. He goes to Georgia, by the way, and looks fantastic again. Even though we don't score in the second half, I think, hey, just get out of Athens with a win. Then you play Vanderbilt, an undefeated team that's very strong. You guys will play them later. You'll see they're good.
Yep.
And Ty Simpson throws his first pick, but he doesn't panic. I just think he's playing as well as any quarterback in the country right now. And I think part of it is his experience, that just being there, being at the different games, being at the different venues, even though he wasn't the starter at the time.
Jimmy, what's your take on Ty so far?
Yeah, he's a very unique blend. People that don't really know his game, is a very unique blend of two things. He is the son of a coach, so he's got those intangibles. He's the son of a coach, not just the son of a coach, the son of a head coach, the son of a former quarterback, the son of a former quarterback coach. So Ty has grown up immersed in it. So he's got all of those intangibles you want in a coach's son, but he combines that with actual 5-star talent. He was a 5-star quarterback out of high school. They don't give you 5 stars in high school because they're impressed that your dad is the coach at UT Martin. You get 5 stars because of your arm, your size, your overall athleticism, the whole package athletically. So Ty's a unique prospect in that way. He's got 5-star tools, but also those 5-star intangibles. I think that's why, even though he's only started 5 college football games, he's been able to be good quickly.
Yeah, I like that he's been around for a minute too, and not only just with the previous administration, but with Kalen DeBoer too. I think just having him around for this amount of time, that 1 year to basically learn his offense from afar, watching Jalen Milroe do it for a year, I think that had to have helped him. Don't you guys think too?
Oh, sure. And your guy, Prabula, picked up the drink offense really quickly. I mean, to me, what Penn State does and what Missouri does is very, very different. but Prabula picked it up super quick. So it's
Yeah,
much
it is
different than Ty Simpson. Ty's been there, practically an old man, both in the offense and at Alabama. Prabula just gets off the bus good in this offense. That's impressive too.
Yeah, what Penn State does is very different from Missouri. They go to UCLA and lose, and I don't think Missouri would do that.
That's a great point. No, we're definitely not doing that. That is a really good point. But speaking of losing, well, unfortunately, the Tide have lost one game so far. In part, again, I brought up that run game, and we've seen the good and the bad from the Alabama run game. I want to get more into this in a little bit. Also, Alabama's tackling on the other side, maybe a little bit suspect. Again, we'll get into all this here in just a minute. First, though, I want to tell you guys that when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse, because whether you're talking about HVAC, plumbing, electrical, SupplyHouse has the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. And by the way, their part finding tools, 3D schematics, I mean, they can truly save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. And of course, time is money, especially on huge projects like this. So join the free Trade Master program today and score some serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit SupplyHouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's SupplyHouse.com. Real people, real service. And also FanDuel. Yes, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel's got an incredible offer for you. Right now, pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And really, my favorite thing about FanDuel, just the absolute bevy of options. I mean, you can bet on Missouri right now, for example, to win the SEC, or Alabama for that matter. You can bet on them to win the SEC title, the national title. Will they make the playoff? There's a million different angles for it. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the app today and get started. So, guys, let's talk about Jam Miller in this Alabama running game. I mean, as usual, hey, we all saw Caden Proctor take that screen pass and stuff. I mean, it's still your usual massive Alabama offensive line. But what has held this Alabama running game back at times, at least especially in the first game, let's say? Is it as simple as Jam Miller just not being there and being injured early in the season?
I think that's part of it. Jam's the best running back at Alabama right now by far. I think they got a couple of young guys that might be a year or two away. But today, Jam Miller's the best running back in Alabama's running back room by far. But Alabama's running game has been a bit of an issue. I think people will be shocked to learn that when Jam Miller rushed for 130 yards last week against Vanderbilt, he was the first Alabama running back to rush for over 100 yards in an SEC game since 2023. So it has been a while for the Alabama to get good production out of the running back spot. Last year, it was very, I guess you would say it was very odd that Alabama's national rushing statistics are actually pretty good. All of that production was coming from the quarterback position. It was all Jalen Milroe running the ball, and the running backs getting sporadic carries on what amounted to a lot of zone read type plays, option plays. So running the ball from the running back position has been a bit of an issue. Looked much better last week. One thing about Ryan Grubb, I give him some credit. Even when it's not working great, John, even when it hasn't worked great, they've stayed sort of committed to it. Why? Because that just helps Ty in the pass game. I think if they just said, well, the running game's not working, let's just junk it, boy, you'd be putting everything on Ty. By staying committed to the run game, you have to take Alabama's play action game seriously. The linebackers still freeze on that fake, and it allows Ty to make a lot of plays in the play action package.
Yeah, I think that Jimmy hit on something that I wonder how the running backs are trying to adjust being actual running backs this year. Last year, whenever there was an important run to be had, even if it was like a read option, you knew what was going to happen. Jalen Milroe was going to keep it. I'm not here to give Jalen Milroe any heck or anything, because he was a fantastic player and I liked him as a person and I wish him nothing but the best. But I think it is fair to say that he was the kind of guy, and again, this is the kind of confidence you want, that if it was 3rd and 3 and the play was, hey, you read this and you either keep the ball handed off, he was always going to keep it.
Right.
And I think so the running backs have to adjust to being like, hey, we're actual running backs again. We might get the ball.
Right.
Again, it goes back to, while I love Jam Miller, I want to say this for the 10,000th time. I love Jam Miller. I think he's fantastic, and I think he's the soul of this team. And Alabama has undoubtedly played better with him in the lineup. A lot better. However, it is fair to say he is not going to be one of Alabama's all-time leading rushers. So I think somebody like an A.K. Deere is probably more explosive, but he doesn't pick up the blitzes as well. He doesn't know the offense as well. Jam Miller knows all that stuff, and that can't be understated.
He's a good player, but he's a day 3 type. And I don't mean that as an insult. I'm meaning it partly as a compliment. I think he's an NFL back, but he's probably a day 3 type guy. Missouri's got, in my opinion, one day 1 guy slam dunk, and I think Jamal Roberts might even be a day 2 guy type.
Well, I love hearing that. And speaking of Ahmad Hardy, by the way, not only Jamal Roberts, who Missouri, a great 1-2 tandem there. Of course, Roberts, he's really good at blitz pickups and all that stuff. But, Ahmad Hardy, simply put, is just really good at running the football. And I saw some stats out there. Our buddy Chris Marler over at Locked On Gamecocks, he's a Bama guy as well. Well, he was saying actually Bama not so great at tackling so far, at least tackling percentage 15th out of 16 teams in the SEC. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's a notable exception to that. He's just a tackling machine. But what do you guys think about that? Is that something you're worried about with Ahmad Hardy in particular?
The secondary's had some tackling issues, particularly the corners, and Missouri's sort of an outside zone read team.
There it is.
They're going to pound the perimeter.
Yeah.
That's where Alabama's had tackling issues, the perimeter. I think inside they've been pretty good. The defensive line, they got a great nose guard, Tim Keenan. For Missouri fans who don't know Alabama's personnel really well, Tim Keenan, a 300-pound plus nose guard, a good anchor against the run. The inside linebackers are good players. They're not awesome. They're good. Justin Jefferson, reigning co-SEC Defensive Player of the Week. Deontay Lawson, a 5-year starter at inside linebacker for Alabama. He's been on the field a ton, fought through a lot of injuries in his career. But Alabama's pretty decent inside there. But on the perimeter, there are significant questions about Alabama's ability to defend the run. Watch for Justin Jefferson in this game to get some snaps at Husky, which is Alabama's nickelback, the 5th defensive back. Justin Jefferson runs extremely well. For the first time, he played significant snaps at Husky last week against Vanderbilt. Result, SEC Defensive Player of the Week. I think for this Missouri matchup that puts one more run defender on one of the perimeters. So I think that's something you should look for. I don't know that it's going to happen on 60 snaps, but it may happen on 20 or 30 snaps.
That's the other thing that really bothers me. I think Jimmy touched on it, that it's not so much the interior, it is the corners. And if you look at the Georgia game, and Georgia's got they don't have Ahmad Hardy, but they got Ahmad Hardy kind of dudes at running back. I mean, like big, bulky, strong, they hard to bring down, thighs like Publix chicken fingers. I mean, they just really big. And so if you go back to that Georgia game, you'll see Damani Jackson a couple of times specifically take some really bad angles and just really lose containment. And look, nobody's asking him. Yeah, it would be great if he could make the tackle, but it's more important to make sure the guy doesn't get outside you and then bust it for a long one. And that's exactly what happened. And hopefully Alabama has learned from that mistake to a degree. But they did give up also a long run against Vanderbilt for about 70 yards. And I think Jimmy would be the first one to tell you, I didn't realize this until Jimmy told me this, that, in that game against Vandy, there were a lot of people saying, hey, man, we got to do something different. We got to do something different because they're just killing us in the run game, even though it was early. And Jimmy pointed this out, that particular play, we tried something different. It didn't work very well.
That was the first snap. It was the first snap they put Jefferson and Husky. The very first snap they tried it. Vanderbilt runs 70 yards for a touchdown. But they stuck with it, and over the course of the game, it worked really well. But Kane Womack's been a little more in year 2 under Kane Womack. He's been a little more willing to adjust personnel packages. I mean, last year, Alabama was sort of in that 3-3-5 and on every snap all year. This year, sometimes there's 4 defensive linemen. Sometimes there's 4 linebackers. Sometimes there's 6 DBs. Alabama's really mixing it up this year on defense. You hardly saw that at all in 2024.
Well, that's really interesting, especially on the corners, because like you say, I mean, Missouri is going to outside zone you to death in that running game. They've been very effective in it so far in this young season. Again, Alabama is going to be a different challenge, but I think that first initial wave of defense there by Alabama, if you can just get past the line and get to that second level, get to those corners, I'm just telling you, if you've got a problem tackling on the perimeter, Ahmad Hardy is the wrong guy to probably get right with that. I'll just say that. But speaking of getting right, let's talk about Ryan Williams here in a little bit, a guy who's obviously one of the most talented players in the entire country, a guy who's had a little bit of the dropsies early in the season. Let's get into how much, well, Jimmy and Luke are worried about that, if at all, frankly, coming up here in just a bit. First, though, we got to talk about Mazda, who crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. And Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. And you can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. And like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. It is Mazda. Move and be moved. And this episode is also brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name, and here's why it matters. Every missed call is quite simply money left on the table, and when every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. And really, the built-in AI agent, a total game changer, answering calls for you after hours. This thing's going to easily pay for itself and then some. So see why more than 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 minutes at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, well, Quo will port them over for you at no extra charge. It's Quo. No missed calls and no missed customers. And I don't want to miss Jimmy and Luke. Let's bring them back in right now and talk about Ryan Williams, because I got to say the dropsy has been a little bit surprising. I don't want to make too much of it, though. So you guys tell me, is this something we should actually worry about, or maybe just kind of a bad stretch there for Ryan?
Yeah, I'll say that it is worrisome.
Okay.
I will also say, unashamedly, Jimmy and I run Locked on Bama, which we have no problem saying is a Ryan Williams podcast. We have said that ever since he was a sophomore in high school.
Before he had his own podcast, thus ripping off our business model.
Oh, man, yes. Brutal.
Lawsuit pending. Anyway, he's the drop against Wisconsin was like, And for those who don't know, he already had 2 touchdowns in that game and had some incredible moves, some ankle-breaking moments. And then we were like, Ryan Williams is back. And then he dropped the pass that would have given him a 3rd touchdown in that game, which was the easiest catch all day. And then against Georgia, he drops one that I think everybody has seen. It was a beautiful deep ball by Ty Simpson, which is the one thing that we were like, can Ty Simpson throw the deep ball? Because he didn't do it well against FSU. Hadn't really done it since, even though he had some long passes. He was mostly the receiver making the play. But that was a loaf of bread coming in from the second floor, and Ryan Williams just fumbled it. I mean, it was just a nasty drop. Thankfully, Georgia had a true freshman that did the same thing later on. But and then he had a kind of a drop against Vanderbilt late in the game that didn't really matter. But if you're a Ryan Williams podcast, you notice this and you go, why is this happening? And I don't know, but it is interesting that yesterday Kalen DeBoer went out of his way to tell folks, there was video out there that all the receivers are also doing different things, like catching rugby balls and catching tennis balls, trying to, I don't know how that helps. I don't know the psychology behind it, but maybe something like that is exactly what Ryan Williams needs, because against this Missouri team on the road at 11 o'clock in the morning against a raucous crowd in the all black, we don't need Ryan Williams dropping passes.
Well, the drops are a significant thing. I think last year, John, Ryan dropped around 6 balls last year. So it was kind of a thing last year. It's dropped like 9 balls in 2025 in just a half season.
That's
so it's a thing.
Number.
It's a thing, and it is a stunning number, and it's a little alarming. But the one thing I'll say about Ryan is, if you told me as an Alabama fan that his numbers Saturday against Missouri were 4 catches, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he had a drop, I'll take it. I mean, that's the thing about Ryan. Along with the drops, there's still considerable playmaking, and he comes through. And frankly, 3rd and 10, game on the line, I trust the kid to catch the ball. But there's going to be some drops. I think it just comes along with the package that is Ryan Williams, but you're also getting a lot of exciting playmaking out of it. No one's ready to trade him for maybe anybody other than the Smith freak at Ohio State.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I feel the same way as you all do about it, really. And you know what? I actually want to get back to something. Jimmy brought up the Husky position, and that Jefferson might actually be playing in the slot a little bit, that nickel kind of slot position. I'll tell you what, if that happens, I'm really interested to see it, because as good as Missouri is running the football, they can throw it too. And Kevin Coleman, one of the best slot receivers, I think he's certainly in the SEC, if not the country. Brett Norfleet is a really good tight end. One way or the other, we're going to find out if Justin Jefferson can cover people if they put him in that position.
That's exactly right. It's what Vanderbilt did. One of the secrets, Justin Jefferson was SEC Defensive Player of the Week, has made 14 tackles. Let's not tell everybody this, but he made 14 tackles because 5 or 6 of them were because Vanderbilt was completing passes to the guy he was covering. Right. And then he made the tackle of the guy because Vanderbilt's like, they got a linebacker playing nickel DB. We're going to go at him. So Vanderbilt did. Now, Missouri is better suited to attack that. That's why I'm not certain Alabama's going to commit to it for 60 snaps, because Missouri is better suited. What I've said about Missouri all week on our show is this. When you could slow down Vanderbilt's rush game, and Alabama did a great job of that, holding them to 20 yards rushing over the final 3 quarters of that game. But when you hold Vanderbilt down to that rushing and get a 2-score lead and force Pavia to beat you from the pocket with his arm, they got no chance. They're dead if you force Vanderbilt into that. Missouri is not the same. If you somehow, some way, impossibly limit Hardy and Roberts because you've so overcommitted to the run, Prabula will kill you. Kevin Coleman will kill you. Norfleet will make plays. They got other wideouts. Missouri's not dead. They have more options than Vanderbilt offensively. So taking away the run or limiting the run isn't enough to shut Missouri out.
So, Jimmy, it sounds like you think this Missouri team is pretty for real then. I just kind of wanted to ask you guys in general, what do you think of this Tiger squad? Do you think that they're legitimately a top 10, top 15 type of team?
Very good. I think they're a very good team. I think they're capable of being a playoff team. I like how they can beat you numerous ways on offense, and the defense has really shown up. Now, the question is, they've done it against the 109th schedule.
Right.
You got to play better teams. I would just say the schedule is pretty good. Like most teams in the SEC, I would say this, not a shot at Missouri. I'd say this about virtually every team in the SEC. If you want to make the playoff, you got to win at least 2 road games. In addition to what you're doing at home, you got to win 2 SEC road games. That's very difficult for anyone in this league. And I think the grand story of Missouri this year will be, okay, did they win a big SEC game or 2 on the road? Holding serve at home is also difficult in this league, but not as hard as winning on the road is. So to me, that's the test for Missouri. But overall, is this a good team? I think it's top 15. I think where they're ranked right now is legitimate to me. And I think over the course of the season, they'll prove to be a top 15 type team. But will they get the 1 road win or so necessary to make it in the playoff? That's a tough question for anybody.
Yeah, I think Missouri is definitely a top 15 team. If you didn't want to put them in the top 15, I get it, because I'm a big, hey, who'd you play kind of guy. That's why I really hated that SMU and Indiana making the playoffs last year. And I hope that Penn State doesn't make it this year unless they win the Big Ten, because you have a loss like UCLA, you shouldn't get in. I don't care how many teams are in this thing.
Right.
So I think Missouri, it is fair to criticize the schedule. But now the one thing is Kansas is a rival, so I don't mind they're doing that. I would like to see Missouri step it up a little bit more in the non-con, but it's probably not the easiest thing until Missouri proves themselves more. They probably won't get a huge name, but to prove yourself more, you have to beat a huge name. So it is sort of a catch-22. But I'll say this, if you don't believe in Missouri right now, Missouri's going to have plenty of opportunities, win, lose, or draw against Alabama, to prove that they do belong. They've got some other difficult games coming up, and I think that Missouri is definitely a capable and potential college football playoff team.
All right, let's get out of here with some quick predictions then. Jimmy, Luke, you got Bama winning, I assume. What do you think it's going to look like?
Yeah, spoiler alert, for our pod tomorrow, we actually put our predictions in, but I'll go ahead and give mine today with maybe less explanation. I'm saying Alabama 38-35. I think this is going to be, I know. That's a lot of points. I know. Man. But I did go so far as to say that I think Missouri scores late to make it a one-score game, and then Alabama holds on. I'm getting mighty specific.
Specific.
I think I even predicted I will have slight indigestion from a stadium dog in the third quarter. I've really gotten into the weeds here. But, I think Alabama, in the end, when all things remain equal, I like to go with the team that has better players. I think overall Alabama's got the better players. I think Ahmad Hardy is ridiculously good. I'm glad you brought up Kevin Coleman. I loved that guy in the recruiting times. Alabama was going after him. I was like, that's who I want. That's Jalen Waddle 2.0. That's who I want. And it hadn't worked out, and he's transferred a gazillion times, but he's still good. And Bro Perbula is, though it sounds like a star from Battlestar Galactica that maybe they would visit or something. Bo Perbula,
the Perbula Galaxy. Yeah.
Let me say this, boy. You think Penn State wishes they had that dude? Kinda.
Maybe might be a little buyer's remorse there. Jimmy, what are you thinking about this game?
I do think it's going to be tight. I think the exciting thing for fans of both teams is I think this will be a great showcase for both teams' Heisman candidates. I think Ty Simpson goes over 300 yards and continues his candidacy. Ahmad Hardy, well over 100 yards against a good SEC defense, continues his Heisman candidacy. I think both Ahmad Hardy and Ty Simpson have big days. I think it's a close game. I think in the end it may even come down to field goals. I like Alabama 27-24. In a game that could really go. There's a 3-point line here. I mean, those games can go either way. But I like Alabama in a close game, but it could come down to field goals.
Yeah, this is, it's a huge game for both teams. I almost think you could argue it's even a bigger game for Alabama than Missouri simply because they already have that one loss. And if you lose one more, then the margin for error for the playoff is basically gone at that point. So there's no way that this is a trap game for Alabama or a game that they're looking past or anything like that. I just think this is a different kind of Missouri team. I think, like you guys, I think this is going to be a competitive football game. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as Luke thinks it's going to be. I think it's more like in the 20s, probably like what Jimmy says. But yeah, you know what? It just seems like this is the time for Missouri to win, quite simply. I think I'm going to predict that Ty Simpson, there we go, the Alabama quarterback. I'm going to predict that Ty throws for about 300 too, but I think Jam Miller maybe only rushes for 50 yards, and Missouri is able to stifle that Bama attack enough that they get a win. Ahmad Hardy gets on the perimeter enough, maybe rushes for 130 or so. I think Missouri pulls it out. I don't know. Call me a homer if you want, but really what I'm feeling, I just think this game's a toss-up. I think it's a really interesting matchup, a lot of different pushes and pulls as far as, well, what if they play Jefferson here, and will Missouri put in an extra tight end? Will they play an extra receiver, an extra tight? I think it's going to be a fascinating matchup on a million different levels, and you know what? Thank you guys for joining me. It's been a blast, and also, if you want, thanks for making this your first listen, as always, of course, and And by the way, for your second listen, check out our buddy Chris Gordy over on Locked On SEC. Of course, Jimmy, Luke, and I are on the squad on Thursdays quite frequently. We're doing these Sunday reaction shows as well. So definitely follow Locked On SEC for all of your SEC news. So for Luke Robinson, for Jimmy Stein, I'm John Miller, and this has been a crossover edition of Locked On Bama and Locked On Mizzou.